Welcome to the Kentucky Society of CPAs Behind the Numbers. I am your host, Kimberly Lindsay, Communications, Marketing, and Creative Director for the Society. In this episode, the focus is the CPA exam. Two very important recent updates regarding the CPA exam that I would like to point out. NASBA, working with the Boards of Accountancy, compiled the latest information on notice to schedule extension information for each jurisdiction. For Kentucky, NASBA extended all NTSs expiring between April 1st and December 30th, 2020 until December 31st, 2020. Please visit nasba.org/exams/news frequently for important messages and continued updates. The second thing I want to point out is the continuous testing launched July 1st, 2020. This allows candidates to take the exam year-round without restriction other than waiting to receive scores from prior attempts of the same section or when there is a major change to the exam. Throughout the year, in the KYCPA Student Monthly e-newsletter, members help guide accounting student members by providing tips for preparing for the CPA exam. Will Geer, a senior accountant at Carr, Riggs & Ingram, LLC in Bowling Green, provided bits of great advice for future CPAs. Start preparing as soon as you can. Whether you realize it or not, college is preparing you for the CPA exam. If not by learning the core material tested on the exam, then by learning how to study and take exams. Continue these habits you've developed. It will work on the CPA exam too. For each section of the exam, I would recommend 3 to 4 weeks of consistent studying. If you devote enough time and energy to studying, you can pass the test. Good luck. Jake Brock, CPA, PhD, current KYCPA board member, and an assistant professor of accounting at the Hunton School of Business at the University of Cumberland in Williamsburg, said that the most important tip for preparing for the CPA exam is to study. However, more specifically, study with a plan. Most of the major review systems provide very handy study planners, and he advises students to take advantage of them. Planning and discipline are the two most important ingredients of a successful study plan. He would also advise exam candidates to have cheerleaders around them in the form of colleagues, friends, family, and mentors. Passing the CPA exam is a journey that we don't have to go through alone. He is eternally grateful for his family, church family, friends, and colleagues who helped him keep his sanity while he was taking the exam. And finally, remember to maintain balance. When he took the exam, he had just changed jobs, was serving as a vocational pastor of a church, and had just started work on his PhD in accounting. Passing all 4 parts the first time while juggling these commitments is an accomplishment he is extremely proud of, but he could never have done it without careful balance, discipline, and a strong support system in his family and his faith. Kristine Gaines is Director of Accounting at Life Safety Services in Louisville and recommends, if you have the luxury of doing so, to take the exam as soon as possible out of school when everything is still fresh. The saying, use it or lose it, applies here. Once you start working, you won't have exposure to all the different topics covered by the exam, and you will quickly forget as you focus on your job. Oftentimes, life will get in the way, and it's harder to go back to it when you have more distractions. As far as taking the exam, just focus on one section at a time. Go ahead and schedule a test date so that you give yourself a deadline and dedicate time each day leading up to it, even if it's as little as 15 minutes when you're busy. Garrett Booth is a senior tax supervisor at Alexander & Company CPAs, PSC in Owensboro, and states first and foremost, importantly, I would say don't get intimidated. You can pass the exam. It is vital that you believe in yourself, but you really have to sacrifice and dedicate your time to studying for the exam. For me, the key was doing as many practice questions and simulations as possible so that I felt comfortable in the exam room. If you fail to pass a part of the exam, it is not the end of the world. That just means you need to work even harder. He suggests immediately attacking that section again so that you can build on your knowledge rather than starting another section and having to circle back. Phillip Bond is an audit senior associate at KPMG LLP in Louisville and says the number one key for this exam is consistency. Throughout life, 90% of us have been able to cram for a test a few days before and still perform up to our desired expectations. Try and emulate your high school and college test prep methods. You will end up with two valuable resources, time and money. These tests aren't cheap. Create a study plan and commit to it. He realizes that some days might not be as convenient as others, with commitments like jobs, school, and family. But even if you are looking at flashcards or doing multiple choice problems from your smartphone, that daily reinforcement of the material is essential. Bond's last tip is to try and make time to do something fun. Extended study periods require intense focus and concentration. It is inevitable that at some point your brain will need a much needed break so that you can return to Tim Garrity and Peter Olento reinvigorated and ready to go. Erin Beavin is a senior manager of assurance services at Ernst & Young LLP. She says anyone who has sat for any portion of the CPA exam knows that this thing is no joke. The questions aren't easy and the tests are lengthy. She wasn't blessed with a photographic memory, so she had to study in order to get the exam behind her. You have to figure out what motivates you to study. While the overall reward of becoming a CPA in the end was motivation, it wasn't always enough to make her sit down and listen to Peter Olento review financial reporting. She typically rewarded herself by getting coffee that didn't come from a Keurig before sitting down to knock out a review area. She also tried to schedule her studying at the beginning of each week so that she didn't cram right before a test. The exam is tough, but knock it out as quickly as you can so that you can move on to picking up a new hobby versus a CPA review course. Bina Khatri is a senior tax associate at BKD CPAs and Advisors in Louisville. She states that proper planning, time management, and commitment are three things that you must have to pass the CPA exam. The CPA exam is a lengthy and systematic process where the pre-approval is required to sit in the exam. So pre-planning and breaking down the total time period for each section of the exam is very helpful. Bina started her job before taking the exams. She found time management as another important aspect of the process. She had reserved her evenings to study and scheduled her exam outside of the busy season. Lastly, a commitment to pass the exam is very important. Matthew Hazel, a senior accountant at Wise Buckner Sproles and Associates in Campbellsville, says he was willing to give up everything for a short period of time and study hard, and it was worth it. He also found a study course and material that worked best for his style of learning. What is great for one person may not be for the next, so do your due diligence and find what works best for you. Please visit kycpa.org/future-CPAs/exam. There are details regarding exam workshops, review courses, test centers reopening, grade extensions, contacts for the Kentucky State Board of Accountancy, Prometric, AICPA, and NASBA. Thank you for listening to KYCPA's Behind the Numbers.